So, fun fact, this man has about 8 seconds to live. You're probably wondering how a broke guy with a receding hairline ended up being the most powerful man on Earth, and then getting stabbed 23 times by his own coworkers. It's a long story. It really is. And here's the twist. He'd spent his whole life dodging death. Today's the day it finally caught up. Let's back up about 40 years. To get why Caesar was a big deal, you need to know one thing about Rome. These people were terrified of kings, like genuinely traumatized. So they built a government designed by a committee that hated each other. Instead of one king, they elected 2 leaders called consuls. Every year, new ones. I have absolute power! So do I. That seems like a problem. It was a huge problem, but it also meant nobody could ever become king.
At a senate, a room of about 600 rich old men who loved 2 things, Rome and reminding you they were richer than you. Rule number 1, underlined, bolded. You do not bring your army into the city. Ever. Remember that one. It's gonna come up. Now meet our guy, Gaius Julius Caesar. Age 30. Job, professional politician. Net worth, catastrophically negative. I am destined for greatness. You owe me the equivalent of $30 million. Destined for expensive greatness. Caesar's whole strategy was to borrow insane amounts of money to throw parties and games for the public, so they'd love him, so he'd win elections, so he could get power, so he could pay back the money. It's a pyramid scheme, but the product is him. Oh, and one more thing you need to know about Caesar. He was deeply insecure about going bald. The laurel wreath is a symbol of honor. The laurel wreath is a hat that covers the bald spot. Keep an eye on the hair. It matters more than you'd think. But here's the part they always skip. Before Caesar was a broke politician, he was a broke teenager. And Rome tried to kill him before he ever did a single thing. See, when Caesar was about 18, Rome had a dictator. Not the fun temporary kind, the I keep a list of people to murder kind. His name was Sulla. Sulla's hobby was writing names on a wall. If your name went on the wall, you were dead and the state took your house. Basically an HOA, except the late fee is your life. And Caesar had married into exactly the wrong family. So Sulla gave him one easy order. Divorce your wife. Divorce her. Or else. No. I'm sorry? No, thank you. Nobody said no to Sulla. Nobody who planned on keeping their head anyway. So Caesar did the thing he'd get frighteningly good at. He ran, hid out in the countryside, changed houses every single night, all while sick with malaria, which is a bold time to go camping. His family begged, the priestesses begged, half of Rome begged, and Sulla, tired and probably hungry, finally caved. But he left them with a warning that aged like a loaded gun. Fine, let the boy live. But mark my words, in this one, I see many a Marius. Marius being the last guy who ripped the Republic in half. So, no pressure, kid. Lock that in, because it's the whole movie. Caesar spent his entire life running from death, and he was elite at it. Right up until he wasn't. Fast forward a few years. Caesar's sailing off to study public speaking, because of course he is, when he gets kidnapped by pirates. Now, if pirates grab you, you panic. Caesar got offended. We are demanding 20 talents of silver for your release. 20? Do you have any idea who I am? No? Ask for 50. He negotiated his own ransom up. He was personally insulted they lowballed him. And for the 38 days it took the cash to show up, Caesar did not behave like a hostage. He behaved like their manager. He joined their games. He read them his poetry out loud, and when they didn't clap, he called them illiterate savages to their faces. That stanza was in perfect meter. Philistines.
When he wanted to nap, he shushed them, the men who kidnapped him. Guys, sleeping. Our bad. And the whole month, he kept making the same friendly little promise. Oh, by the way, the second I'm free, I'm coming back and I'm crucifying every last one of you. This guy. Classic hostage banter. It was not hostage banter. The ransom lands, Caesar walks free. The pirates wave him off, totally sure the rich weirdo was all talk. He was not all talk. Caesar immediately raised his own private fleet. No title, no orders, no permission, just pure spite. Hunted them down, took his ransom back with interest, and crucified every single one of them. As promised. He even sent a save the date. So the resume so far: broke, 30 million in debt, and cannot be scared by dictators or pirates. Rome really should have been taking notes. To finally fix the being broke problem, Caesar got himself assigned governor of a region up north, next to a place the Romans called Gaul, modern-day France. The job was basically keep the border quiet. Caesar read that as conquer all of it. 58 BC. First up, a tribe called the Helvetii decides to migrate right through Caesar's territory. Bad timing. Absolutely not. Turn around. There's like 300,000 of us. I'll wait. He crushed them, one region down. Then a German warlord named Ariovistus wandered across the Rhine looking for real estate. This land is mine now. Second red flag today, and it's not even lunch. Gone. 2 down. And this became the pattern. A tribe would exist, and Caesar would decide that was provocative. The Belgae in the north, the Veneti on the coast. So he built a navy from scratch to beat them. He even bridged the Rhine in 10 days just to walk across, flex, and walk back.
I have crossed the Rhine.
Sir, we're walking back already. The point was that I could. He was so bored of winning he sailed to Britain. Twice. For basically no reason. Sir, why are we in Britain? Nobody Roman has ever been. So now they have to talk about me. That's it? That's the whole plan, yeah. He found some rain, some very confused locals, and left. Tourism. And now let's talk numbers, because they're genuinely unhinged. Over 8 years, historians think Caesar's wars in Gaul killed around 1 million people and enslaved another 1 million. Something like 1 in 5 people in all of Gaul. And then he wrote a book about it, a bestseller, in which he is the hero. He also graded his own homework. The man wrote the only surviving account of the whole thing, in the third person, about how awesome he did. Greatest PR move in history. 0 out of 5 stars. Would not review again. Back home, the Senate is watching the map turn red and slowly realizing something. He's conquered France and built a bridge to prove a point and invaded an island nobody asked about. I'm getting a little concerned about the amount of red on this map. The finale came in 52 BC. All of Gaul finally united under one leader, Vercingetorix, a name Caesar refused to learn to pronounce. Today, Gaul stands as one! Cool. Vercinger. You. Cool. You. The showdown was the siege of Alesia, where Caesar did something insane. He built a wall around the enemy city and then a second wall around his own army, facing outward to fight the reinforcements coming to help them. He won. Surrounded, outnumbered on both sides. And with that, the map was red. All of it. When it was over, Vercingetorix rode out, circled Caesar once on his horse, threw his weapons down at his feet, and sat in silence. Absolute legend exit. Okay, that was kind of sick. Throw him in a cell for 6 years. He'd keep him alive for the victory parade. Then strangle him. Romans threw a mean parade. Caesar had conquered France. gotten unbelievably rich, and now commanded the most battle-hardened army in the world. An army that was personally loyal to him, not to Rome. Back in the Senate, this was noted. Nervously. Okay, quick recap because a lot just happened and we're only halfway in. 1. Our guy started broke. Historically, spectacularly broke. 2. A dictator tried to kill him and pirates kidnapped him. Both regretted it. 3. Got sent north to babysit a quiet border and conquered an entire country instead. 4. Came home the richest, most popular general alive with a battle-hardened army that answers to him, not Rome. Total time elapsed, about 8 years. That's not a career, that's a speed run. So the most powerful republic on Earth looked at all of that and thought, yeah, this is fine. It was not fine.
Quick question before we go on, and I actually read the comments. At this point, is Caesar a hero, or is he exactly the kind of guy the whole no kings thing was invented to stop? Hold that thought. We come back to it. Here's the thing about becoming the most powerful general in Rome. Rome hated that. Remember Crassus and Pompey? Caesar had a secret three-way alliance with them. The richest man in Rome and the greatest general in Rome. Crassus, the richest man in Rome and future Human Torch, went off to conquer the East to get some military glory too. It went poorly. How hard can Parthia be? They killed him and, according to legend, poured molten gold down his throat so he could finally have all the gold he wanted. Be careful what you wish for. And that left 2. Caesar in Gaul and Pompey in Rome, and the Senate whispering in Pompey's ear. He has an army loyal only to him. He's too popular. He's basically a king with extra steps. So the Senate gave Caesar an order. Disband your army and come home. Alone. To stand trial. Which, to be clear, meant come home so we can end your career and possibly you. Caesar rode south to the edge of his territory, a tiny, unremarkable river called the Rubicon. On the other side, Italy. And the law was crystal clear. Sir, if we cross this river with the army, that's treason. Automatically, it starts a civil war. Right? Right. Right. And he crossed it anyway. The die is cast, which is a fancy way of saying, I rolled the dice, no takebacks. Pompey, the greatest general in Rome, took one look at Caesar's veterans coming and did something legendary. He left. Strategic retreat. He fled the country. Caesar chased him across the Mediterranean, and they finally collided in Greece at a place called Pharsalus. And on paper, Caesar should have lost. I have almost double the army. This is basically already over. Outnumbered, Caesar told his front line to do one weird, specific thing. When Pompey's fancy young cavalry charges, don't stab the horses. Stab the riders in the face. The face. Trust me on this. Turns out, Rome's rich pretty boy cavalry cared deeply about their faces. They saw spears coming for the one thing they moisturized, panicked, and bolted. Not the face, not the face! Pompey's whole plan folded. The greatest general in Rome watched his army break, walked back to his tent and, historically, just sat down. Buffering. Pompey ran to Egypt to regroup. Egypt solved the problem for him. They assassinated Pompey and presented his head to Caesar as a gift. I asked for a truce, not a head. And that is how Caesar met Egypt's brand new co-ruler, a 21-year-old named Cleopatra. But that's a whole other video. Caesar came home the undisputed winner. No more consuls sharing power, no more Pompey, just Caesar. So the Senate gave him a temporary emergency title, dictator. Back then, that just meant guy in charge during a crisis. It was supposed to last 6 months.
I'll take it. For life. Dictator. For life. Cool system. Love it.
And here's the part they don't tell you. He was actually really good at the job. He forgave his enemies instead of killing them. He gave citizenship to people outside Rome. He put poor Romans to work. He even fixed the calendar. The old one was a mess, so he built a new one with 365 days and a leap year. It's basically the calendar you use this morning. You're welcome. From a bald man from 46 BC. And he named a month after himself. July. Obviously. But every reform came with the same small print. Caesar decides. Alone. And to make sure of it, he packed the Senate with his own guys, loyal soldiers, and a bunch of Gauls in fresh togas, who 3 years ago were the enemy. Weren't you literally trying to kill us last spring? And now we do paperwork together. The old Roman nobles, 600 proud men who spent their whole lives being important, were now basically decoration.
So what do we vote on today?
Nothing. I handled it. We voted to let you handle it. See? Democracy. They started calling him the father of his country. They put his face on coins. A living Roman on money, which had never been done. Statues everywhere. A golden chair. His own personal priest. Isn't a priest for, like, gods? Correct. And you are? We'll see. And that little laurel wreath he never took off? People started whispering it was looking an awful lot like a crown. And in a city built on the words "no kings," that was the one thing you could not look like.
A group of senators decided Caesar had to go.
For the Republic. To save Rome from becoming a monarchy. Also, a few of them just really didn't like him. Both things can be true. And this wasn't 3 guys in a basement. The plot grew to around 60 senators. 60. That's not a conspiracy, that's a group project. And somehow, the one man in Rome who read every single report missed this memo. The ringleaders were Cassius, the angry one, and Brutus. And Brutus is the twist of the whole story. Because Caesar loved Brutus, protected him, promoted him, treated him like a son. He's my friend. He spared my life. He gave me everything. Right, and now we stab him. For Rome.
With friends like these.
And here's the detail that makes it hurt. Not long before, Caesar had sent his bodyguard home. The troops who shadowed him everywhere. Dismissed. His reasoning? A man everyone fears is already half dead. I'd rather die once than live afraid every single day. Congratulations, you played yourself. The date they picked, March 15th, 44 BC. The Romans called it the Ides of March. And Caesar was warned, repeatedly, by, honestly, everyone. A fortune teller had told him weeks earlier, beware the Ides of March. Beware the vague guy, noted. The night before, his wife Calpurnia woke up screaming from a nightmare that he'd be murdered, and begged him to just stay home. And honestly, he almost did. Please, just this once, stay home. Okay, fine. And then one of the conspirators, a man Caesar trusted, showed up to walk him to the Senate and talked him right back out of it. Wait, you're skipping Senate because your wife had a bad dream? People are gonna say you're scared. And people will say you're scared is the one button that always worked on this man. So he went. On the way in, somebody literally pressed a note into his hand that spelled out the entire plot. He didn't read it. He was busy. He was Caesar. They surrounded him in the Senate under the excuse of handing him a petition, and then they pulled the knives. 23 stab wounds. From 60 men so nervous. Most of the blows missed, and several of them stabbed each other. And the famous last words, Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus? He almost certainly never said it. Shakespeare made that up 1,500 years later. We're keeping it. It's a banger. What he probably did was pull his robe over his face so no one would see it happen. The man who dodged Sulla, dodged the pirates, dodged 100 battles, hiding his face on the floor of a Senate that just voted unanimously and with knives that he had too much power. So here's a punchline the assassins didn't see coming. They killed the man to save the Republic. Instead, they killed the Republic to save the man. Because the people loved Caesar. Riots, chaos. And in the war that followed, the Republic, the whole 2 consuls, no kings, no army in the city thing that Rome had guarded for 500 years, died with him. The man who won was Caesar's teenage grandnephew. Quiet kid, nobody took him seriously. His name was Octavian, and he was about to do the thing Caesar only got accused of: become an actual, literal God Emperor. And he'd rule for 40 years. Rome spent 5 centuries terrified of one king. It was about to get 70 of them. So, back to the question from the middle. Now that you know how it ends, did Caesar break the Republic, or did he just show up on time to a funeral that already started? Tell me in the comments. I read them. And if you want to meet the quiet kid who turned no kings into an empire with emperors, subscribe, because the boy who became a god is next. Fair warning, someone always breaks something. It's kind of our whole thing.